Hi friends, it's Marie at LivingFelt, and today we have a fun tutorial for you to make this sweet needle-felted Santa Claus. This little needle-felted Santa is adorable with his hat and mittens and little pear-shaped body. We think he would make adorable Christmas decorations, whether you turn him into an ornament or place him in your favorite Christmas scene. I think I might even put mine on a music box. We'll start by needle felting him with a simple armature, some core wool. We're going to give him a little bit of personality, and the whole process will be fun even if you are a beginner. So check out the supply list link down below and let's jump into this project. The supplies for this project are very simple, and we do have a kit, but you can follow the exact measurements and details in the supply list below. Here's a look at the materials we need for our Santa. We have core wool, wool batting in your choice of color for the clothes. We'll be using white for his beard, eyebrows, whatever, and trim on his outfit and his mittens, and then your favorite skin tone. So you'll see more on the supplies page. We'll use some chenille stems, one or more, it's your choice, and then 2 armature wires. And I'll be using 4mm black eyes. You can use wool or blue eyes or whatever you choose. The tools that will be helpful for this project are a needle felting mat. I'm going to be using a 12x12 wow mat, some felting needles, 42 triangle, 40 triangle, perhaps a 36. I have my favorite cluster of 42 triangles rubber banded together, and perhaps a straight pin or a doll needle. I'll be using my wow mat toppers. We call these the Wowee toppers. If you don't have them, don't worry about it. You'll need some wire cutters and maybe some pliers, wire cutters. An awl or even our really pointy LivingFelt tweezers should be helpful. Some glue, this is my favorite, and a ruler. For this Santa, we'll also be using our little black boots. These will help him stand perfectly. To begin our armature, start with your brown or 18 gauge wire, cut it to 11 inches, and then fold it in half. Use your pliers if it's helpful to twist the 2 sides evenly together, leaving 2 inches at the bottom untwisted. Those will be our legs. Just make sure it's straight and let the top of your wire come to as tight of a point as possible. Cut your 20 gauge wire to 8 inches. Find the middle and run the wire through the neck loop of your body armature. I like to make my arms short. They're about 2 inches long each, so bend the white wire back to make your arms whatever length you desire. Loop one end of your chenille stem through the end of one arm, wrap the length of both arms, and cut your chenille stem. Use the remaining chenille stem to run down the torso. Use the remaining chenille stem to wrap both of the legs as well. This will help the wool grip when you go to wrap it. We begin covering our Santa with the clothing color on the legs. Start wrapping the wool midway on the leg, wrap down towards the toe, allow the wool to run a little bit off the leg, and then fold it back over on itself. And then continue wrapping up the leg, across the seat area, and down the other leg. Repeat this until you run out of fiber. And needle felt it flat. Spend a little time here needle felting the wool nice and smooth. We don't want our legs too thick because they're going to fit in our boots. And also our Santa design is one that he has tiny little legs and tiny little arms and a big pear body. So get your legs only as thick or thin as you want them and make sure all of that wool is needle felted down nice and smooth. Once you finish with the legs, repeat with the arms. We want to work in thin strips so that we can control the fiber going onto our armature evenly and uniformly and having it not boss us around. When you're wrapping these thin little armatures, you might find at first that it seems a little lumpy and bumpy. Just focus on making it as even as you can as you apply it, and then tack it down with your felting needle, making sure to always go at shallow angles to avoid hitting the wire and bending or breaking your needle. Once you have that underneath layer tacked down, you can add a thin layer to even out any lumps and bumps. Make sure you needle felt this very firmly, only going to the middle of the armature so that it doesn't get fuzzy, and you want it all tacked down so that it doesn't come apart with handling. Build up the pear-shaped torso of your Santa with the core wool. Work with similar long strips that are thin and narrow so that you can control how it goes on. Add more wool to the base of the torso, but work your way all the way up just underneath the arms. Keep wrapping tightly and needle felting in place with each strip until your Santa is nice and plump. One tip I have in covering your Santa with red, I want to build in the area between the legs and the tummy, and so just wrap your red all the way around the tops of the legs, needle felt them to the base of the torso, and then attach them to the legs and between the legs. You can do this a few times until you build up the density. Just needle felt it smooth in between each time. Continue until your entire Santa body is covered in the color of clothes you like. And we like ours to look like little pajamas or like a little Jetson suit. My little under Santa here with the armature, the core wool, and the red on the body weighs 0.7 ounces. Our next step is to needle felt our Santa's head. Start with about 0.1 ounce of wool and needle felt a tight ball that is approximately 1 inch in size. Cover your head with your skin color of choice and needle felt it so that it's nice and smooth. Decide which will be the face. I like to choose the flatter side for the face and the rounder side for the back of the head because we're going to build up so much dimension on the front. Needle felt a tiny little ball. Make it nice and dense. Use your fine felting needle. Use that excess to mount the nose on the face. Before we do that, fluff out the ends of the wool and needle felt into the back of the nose. This will help build up that density because we want our little Santa to have a plump little button nose. About midway down the front, we're going to put our nose. And fluff all that wool out and blend it right into the head using your fine felting needle. You can use your fingers to push up on the nose and bend it up like ours if you want, or even add nostrils, whatever you prefer. After adding the nose, I like to add the mouth. We're going to make 2 individual lips, pull off tiny, thin amounts of fiber, fold them over your felting needle or a toothpick to get a nice edge, and needle felt that very shallowly to build up density. Leave the edges unfelted. We're just making a little lip. And if you want a little bigger bottom lip like ours, fold it over again and needle felt another little ridge. Shallow pokes here are your friend, and make sure to turn the piece over so that you have a front and a back. Once you've made both of your lips, take the thinner one, pull off as much excess wool as you can get away with, and then divide that unfelted edge, sort of split it apart and push it up underneath the nose. Think about your Santa smiling as you needle felt the lip to the face, and we're going to give our upper lip just a slight curve. It shouldn't stick up off the face too much. It's not protruding out, but the mouth is hollow inside, so there should be a little bit of a lift off the face without the lips poking straight out. Add your bottom lip after in the same way, and again, just think of the corners of the mouth joining and a nice little smile on your Santa's face. Once your lips are in place, we can add our cheeks. Needle felt 2 tiny small balls. They can be kind of soft because we'll be shaping them to the face, but make 2 little mounds. We'll taper the loose end towards the nose. We want them to come semi-flat underneath the eye area and round out along the bottom for our happy little cheeks. Notice how there's a line in our face when we smile from the corner of our nostril that kind of goes down to the edge of the mouth. And if we have jowls, then they'll go underneath the chin as well. So think about that line when you sculpt the cheeks onto the face. Get both of those shapes in place and don't worry if they're rough, because you can just pull off a thin patch of your skin tone and put it right over the top, and that will make everything look nice and smooth. Needle felt it firmly though, don't leave it loose and wispy. Get it nice and firm and in place. Once your cheeks are nice and happy and you're pleased with their shape, it's time to add our eye sockets. If you want your Santa just to have wool eyes, you don't have to add deep sockets, but we're going to put glass eyes in ours, so use your 36 triangle felting needle to make nice little eye sockets. Make sure you're happy with any lines. We add a few lines right on the side of our eyes. Snip off your glass eyes so they're fairly short but long enough to mount in your Santa head. If you're unsure about the color you're going to use, don't glue them at this time. Just put them in and sit with them for a while and see how you like them. You can also use your awl at this time to make a hole in the bottom of the head where we'll be attaching the head to the torso. If you don't have an awl, try your LivingFelt super sharp tweezers because they're very pointy and they can form a great hole as well. Again, you don't have to glue the head in place just yet. Just put it on and start to think about the direction you want the head to turn, or maybe what your Santa will be doing. Because we have that neck wire in there, we'll be able to pose his head later in an arc or angle, whatever you're wanting. But just semi-put them together for now before we move on to the finishing touches. To make sure our Santa is really durable and lasts a long time, we are going to first glue his head to the wire. And we're using just a drop of our silicone glue on the end of the wire and then putting his head in place. Next, we will glue on the boots, and I like to put just a drop of glue on the bottom of each leg and then make sure immediately that you like how he stands. To needle felt mittens for our Santa, pull off 2 small tufts of white or whatever color you're using for the mittens. Make them both the same size. Fold them over something like your needle or a skewer And use one of your fingers to start coaxing the shape. First, needle felt the area somewhat flat on both sides. That's going to help build up density so that you can start to coax the sides in by shaping with your fingers and needle felting directly into the sides and the top of your mittens towards the center. This gradual poking with a very fine felting needle will help you build up the density. As it gets more dense, fluff out the end that will attach to the arm and needle felt straight into there also. That also helps build up the density. So keep compacting that wool ever more gradually into a shape for the size of the mittens. I like mine to be about the size of my pinky. When you're happy with that shape, make the thumb. I like to form mine around the tip of my felting needle because it's very narrow. So twist the wool around until you get a nice little plump shape for the thumb. It should be bigger than you need. Push it off of the end of your needle or toothpick or whatever you're using and start needle felting into what will be the top of the thumb and shape it. Needle felt very shallow poke so that you don't go all the way through. I'm using the 42 gauge needle for that and get that little thumb dense. Use the loose tail end, fluff that out, and then needle felt it to the mitten hand. Once you have both mittens formed, remember to have opposing hands so the thumbs kind of go on top if you put your hands together. Make sure you have them in the right place and then needle felt them to the end of Santa's arms. This can feel kind of tricksy, but just take your time and poke that wool in. And then once you're happy with it, wrap around the end of the arm with another white fluff of wool, and we're going to use that to further attach the mitten to the hand and also to give his sleeve a nice little trim. To trim Santa's coat, we'll pull off a long length of our white fiber and use your wow mat or your felting pad, whatever you have, and roll that wool between your fingers, running it parallel with your fingers. You'll find that doing it that way is really easy to get the fiber to roll in on itself. And then just spend a few minutes needle felting some density into that little roll. So needle felt it with a fine needle, roll it again, needle felt it, roll it again, until it starts to form a little bit of density. Make sure it'll wrap all the way around your little Santa and that you'll have at least, a half-inch overlap of the pieces. And then position it on your Santa's tummy wherever you want it to appear. We're going just below the widest part of Santa, so it looks like he's wearing a little tunic and stretchy trousers. And then begin needle felting the top of your roll and then the underneath side of your roll to attach it to the body. And then needle right into the roll in the middle and firm it up and continue to shape it while you attach it. We needle felt the hat with the support of a chenille stem. I like to fold it over on itself, leaving a little loop at the top, and put in a couple of twists to the length of about 2 or 3 fingers. Wrap your wool through the loop and wrap it very tightly. We'll be needle felting each strip as we apply it. I like to leave the very tip very thin for this guy because he's very pixie-esque, and make the bottom very conical. I like to leave the chenille stem in place so I can use it as a little handle and needle felt inside the hat to make it a little scooped out so we can put it right on the head. This also helps really make it nice and dense, and then we'll be able to pull it tight around Santa's head so he's kind of buried in his hat. Get it shaped just how you want it, and we're actually going to snip off our chenille stem, leaving a tiny piece to insert into the head. You can glue this in place if you feel comfortable, so make a small hole in the top of the head using your awl or tweezers, and then make sure your chenille stem or wire will go in there. Once you're happy with the position, you can glue it in place if desired. But we are also going to needle felt the hat to the head and add trim if you like. Once your hat is positioned in place, whether you've glued it or just inserted the chenille stem or removed it all the way, we're going to needle felt it to the head. And if you desire a trim, create it the same way we did on the tunic of Santa. Needle felt a tiny patch of brown wool inside the mouth of Santa, and that will give him perfect dimension. Of course, our little Santa will not be complete without a beard. To make ours, we went for a big white fluffy beard. So take a tuft of wool that is semi-narrow and fold it in half. Start needle felting just at the fold on both sides, so top and bottom. We're going to needle felt this area just underneath the bottom lip. So we're going to follow the bottom lip curve and then up underneath each cheek, following that curve up to the hat line. This is going to really accentuate Santa's happy little smile and pudgy little cheeks. Once this is in place, I like to just scoop the wool and mass it up into a bit of a shape and start needle felting into the volume to build up the shape. You can also separate the bottom of the beard into 3 or more pieces and give those ends a little twist. Needle felt into the lines that you created so that you start to create dimension, depth, and rise within that beard and give it some nice volume. So just scrunch and shape and needle felt the beard until you're happy with its form. Once the beard is in place, you can consider whether your Santa has room or need for a mustache or maybe even eyebrows. We skipped the eyebrows since our hat was so bushy, but to form the mustache, we make tiny little peaks by twisting one end of a piece of wool and then fold each of those in half so the mustache goes from the center of the nose out and the second piece goes from the center of the nose out. Don't try and stretch it across or it'll just look stretched across. For the hair, we really debated about Santa's hair, but we decided he does have some hair. And so we did the same thing with the back of the head. We made several little peaks that would be the bottom of his hair, twisting them between our fingers. But then to apply them, I fold them backwards. So the tip for the moment goes up towards the point of the hat. Needle felt some of the fluff right underneath the hat trim, and then fold the pointy part of the lock back down and needle felt it in place. That'll make sure he doesn't look bald underneath the little peaks of hair that you created. Just continue to style him, maybe consider adding any other accents and think about where your Santa will be. Again, are you going to string him up to hang on a tree? If your hat's glued in place, that should be plenty secure now for that. Or are you going to build him a little stand? And we're going to continue cleaning our little guy up and planning his final place for our holiday decorations. After sitting with my Santa for a while, I decided to give him short little eyebrows, make them kind of like he did the mustache, only much smaller. Our little Santa is all complete, and we can't wait to see yours as well. We hope you've had fun. Let us know your favorite takeaway down below. And please, if you make a Santa, share him in our Facebook group, LivingFelt Friends, for more funsies on our holiday playlist. Hey, check out this needle felting cactus video by Fairy Kayla, and you can also browse our entire winter felting playlist. We'll see you next time, y'all. Ho, ho, ho.